This is Jam Nation.
With Jonesy and Amanda.
It's easy to forget when you look at all the noise in the media about mortgage rates, etc., that over 30% of Australians rent. Many renovation shows overlook this. Barry on the Living Room will always go out of his way to do renovations that you can take with you if you rent, or that aren't necessarily involved in you owning your own home. But never has it been so difficult to rent a house in Sydney. Increases in prices, a competitive market, issues of mould with all the weather we've been having, pet ownership. These things are causing great concern to the rental market. Ray Ellis is our real estate guru. He's the Chief Executive of First National Real Estate, and he joins us now to talk about the rights of the renter. Hello, Ray. How are you?
Good morning. Yes, you raise a very serious issue. There is a rental crisis in Australia at the moment.
In Europe, you can get like a 90-year lease. So you and your family can be secure knowing that you're renting and your kids will always go to that school, that's the suburb that you know and that's the suburb you live in. We don't have that security here, do we?
Well, it hasn't been in our DNA. Home ownership is a dream of most Australians, and rental has always been seen as a stopgap, temporary university before you buy your own house measure. Whereas what we're seeing in the last couple of years is people now want 2, 3, 5, 7. I don't think we're going to get to 99-year leases for many years, but long-term leases are becoming normal. And most landlords want that. They want a good tenant. A good tenant wants security because, to quote that great Australian movie, The Castle, it is your home. Whether you rent it or mortgage payment it is your home. So security for a tenant for long term is very important.
Mm-hmm. Well, what about mould? This has been a big issue with the kind of weather that we've been having here in Sydney. Many people are complaining about the mould. Whose job is it to remove the mould?
Well, first off, if you're a tenant, you need to get a copy of the inspection report before you move in. That'll show if there is mould or mould is being treated. But if mould develops, and as you said, the weather we've seen, not just in Sydney and New South Wales, all around Australia at the moment, mould is becoming a big issue in many, many properties. So the landlord has a responsibility to remove the mould, remove it professionally. The lack of trades around Australia at the moment doesn't mean to say it's going to happen the next day, but don't wait there's regular inspections, sometimes 2 or 3 times a year of a rental property. Don't wait for your next inspection. Take a photo on your phone, send it to your property manager, highlight the concerns you have about the mould developing, and the landlord will repair it.
And according to a current affair, they'll alternate stories. They'll have, it's terrible for the renter, and then they'll say it's terrible for the landlord. So who's got the better end of the stick at the moment?
Well, that is why there's a rental crisis in Australia. Most landlords in Australia are just your average mum and dad earning under $80,000 a year who own one investment property, and they're trying to get ahead with their personal finances. And they want a good tenant. And most tenants are either trying to get into the housing market or, as I said, provide a home for their own family, or rent a property in the inner city as they start their career. So the relationship with the landlord and tenant is very important. A good property manager is a communication key between that. And we want resolution. We don't want conflict. Conflicts is actually very rare. It becomes known there's a very bad tenant or a very bad landlord, and that becomes a media story. But in the main, most communication between the property manager, landlord and tenant is very good, and they have a good, seamless working relationship.
What about pets? Because it seems to be that it can be very hard for you to have your pet. I keep reading different strata rules as to whether you can have pets or whether you can't have pets. I know someone who's had to pay a $5,000 bond to have a pet, which makes renting even more expensive.
Gee.
Well, they love their pet. That's why they do it.
But should we have blanket rules for pets as a tenant? Should you be able to?
Tasmania started many years ago. Victoria, Queensland have just introduced it. Most states are now in regulation to allow pets in a property because there's one simple fact. If you own a pet, you are a better tenant. And that's what is forgotten because you have a caring relationship, you have a better way of wanting to live, and pets provide comfort. Of course, we don't want a Great Dane in a 2-foot by 2-foot apartment. We don't want guinea pigs in one room and rabbits in another.
No.
There's realms around that. But the person had to pay $5,000. Most body corporations have their own rules and regulations around that, which comes around to health and safety. But on the main, allowing pets to be in a rental property provides an opportunity for a better tenant, and state legislation around Australia is catching up with that, and we as an industry support it.
Right.
And if you do have issues, where do you go? If your landlord isn't giving you any joy in any of this, what do you do?
Every state has their own appeals tribunal. In Victoria, it's VCAT, QCAT, in Queensland, and so on. They're the last resort. As I said earlier, most of the disputes are worked out between the landlord and tenant. I'm not saying every landlord is perfect, every tenant is perfect, but in the main they are. But there is an administrative body to able to appeal to if your property manager and your landlord or your tenant cannot resolve it.
Is it a good idea to have a relationship with your landlord or landlord have a relationship with the tenant, or does that just is going to end in tears?
That confuses the issue because there's a whole range of regulations in every state about smoke alarms, security, breakage, insurance, everything that makes a good property be able to be rent. The property manager has the expertise to deal with that. The property manager has the expertise to deal with the emotion of a hot water system breaking down, which always breaks down at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night, by the way. So they know how to deal with that. Yeah. The landlord doesn't want to be interrupted in their personal lives, and a relationship between that confuses the issue.
And what if, just asking for a friend, is if your tenant is a penthouse pet?
What?
Well, because you've got a pet in there.
We'll discuss it with your wife, I'd imagine.
These are well raised here. This is expert advice right here.
Well, as long as she's got good hygiene, no one would mind.
Okay.
Exactly. Good hygiene, good pet. The rent's always paid on time.
There you go. Ray, thank you so much for joining us from First National Real Estate. Look after yourself, mate. Thank you.
Ray.
Thank you for your time, and good luck to everybody.
Thank you.